a lot of the employees and the managers came up to me with their concerns and sometimes even oppositions. They said things like, I don't see the point. What's the value in this? Why are we doing this? I don't think it's going to work. And I don't agree with my objectives. I think we as managers might have already faced these kind of reactions from our direct reports, or will face some reactions like this when we talk to them about their objective setting. So I hope that my experience, my learnings can add some value to this workout today. Okay. Just-in-time sessions are designed to be 90 minutes, and it's also designed to be interactive. So please participate, get involved, and share a lot, because that's the key point of where we're going to learn the most from each other. So also, there's no need for you to take any notes, because I'll be handing out this handout to everybody later, and this has all the important points from the 90-minute workout. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we will be discussing in the next 90 minutes. So the session is divided into 4 sections. The first section talks about getting them right and what stops us. We'll think about what are the benefits of having objectives, and also what is the importance of having the right objectives. We'll also look at what's then stopping us from setting the right objectives, and also we'll think about the responsibility of who should be responsible for the objectives. The second part we'll talk about is the actual setting of the great objectives. So we think that there are 3 stages of setting great objectives. One starting with setting your team's objectives, then refining these objectives to fit and tailoring it to fit the individual objectives, the individual needs of your direct reports. And the third part will be the following up. We'll also look into practice. So as I shared earlier from my experience, we may face some tricky reactions when we talk about objective settings with our reports. So we'll look at what kind of tricky reactions we might face, and also how to handle these situations. The last part of today's session is we'll look at my situation, which will look at what practical tips you can take away from, with you from this session to actually apply it in practice for your own special situations. Then we'll be closing the session, sharing the 5 tips for success. So this will summarize all the key points that we will learn in the next 90 minutes. And we'll be also sharing further sources for those that want to do further reading. Okay. So before we proceed further, can we ask the group if we have ever set goals or targets in our private life before, outside of work?
Yep.
Okay. So I think most of you put your hand up. Can you imagine maybe one situation, one goal that you have set before? Can we ask one of you to maybe share an experience of completing that objective?
I set a goal to finish my master degree by age 24, and I managed to do that.
Thank you. What do you think made you stick to that goal when you set it?
Because I have the timeline. 25. Finish.
When did you set the objective?
Right after I finish my university bachelor degree.
Thank you. Now can we ask the group if we have ever failed to achieve an objective before?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can one of us share an example?
Weight loss. You set new goals every few months, and then you get somewhere, but then you start losing the motivation, and then and nobody's watching, right? It's your own goal. So there's nobody who's tracking your progress, so you sometimes don't achieve it. So you miss your target.
So you're saying that you were maybe adjusting the target or the timeline,
Yeah.
and then other people around you weren't really helping you follow up, and then you weren't maybe regularly visiting. what you're supposed to be achieving.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. I think we came up with a few points that's going to be mentioned at a later stage. Trisha also rather mentioned the time frame, and also it was a measurable and specific objectives that we had. So now let's think about what are the benefits of having objectives. You can just shout out some answers.
Know what to do.
You know what to do? Anything
Better
else?
use of your time.
Better use of your time.
Keeps you motivated because you have something to look forward to.
And you focus.
You focus.
Yeah, and then we can see the improvement ourselves.
Okay. You can keep track of how you're developing. Okay. Thank you for sharing. I'd like to also share one research on this topic. So there is an American psychologist called Dr. Edwin Locke. He's well known for his research into motivation and goal setting theory. In his theory, well, the goal setting theory suggests that setting the goal is the most effective way for motivation and for higher performance. And here comes my drawing. So, the benefits is we can motivate our employees and we can expect higher performance. So I think, as many of us mentioned, we have various benefits of setting objectives, as well as the motivation and higher performance. Now let's do an exercise to test if we are understanding the benefits properly. So the process of this exercise, let me explain the process of this exercise. We'll divide into groups, and each team would receive a card and some paper. Okay. Please don't open the card until I say start, and we'll have 2 minutes to complete the task. Okay. So we'll be dividing into 2 people, and 3 people. But to maybe bring the energy level up, let's do a quick lineup. So please go stand up. So when is the last time you think you had a big progress in your work? If you think you had a big progress last week, please stand here. If you think your big progress at work was maybe 10 years ago, please stand here.
What does that mean, big progress?
It can be your interpretation, just a big progress at work.
Okay.
At work, right?
Yes.
Okay.
3 months.
Yay.
Last year.
Last year.
2, 3
Last year,
years.
so
3 months.
3 months.
4,
Mine is
5
just
months.
around 3 months.
Yes.
Last year.
Okay, so we will now do kind of a circle. So the 3 of you in the middle will work as a team.
Okay.
Please do not open the instructions yet.
Very
And
Yeah.
Anna together with Jaya, and Fon together with
Come.
Jay.
Here.
Okay. So please find maybe a space to group together or pair up together. And no, you're not. You can't. And we'll have 2 minutes to complete the task. So please start now.
So what? Okay, we can see it now.
Yes, you can see it now. If you need some people, you can.
Yeah, okay, come with me. Okay. So this, you can write on the mark. It doesn't write.
Progress. Feedback. What else?
Time management.
Direction. Focus. Comparison. You to write, understand, focus. Bigger views. Career flow.
Sense of achievement.
Yeah, difficult competition. Positive.
Okay, 10 seconds to go. And over. So please put your pen down.
Almost got it.
Oh my god.
So what are the benefits we came up with in the discussion?
We only had one.
Sorry, reasons.
Better performance.
Okay, you can say greater performance.
Only one reason.
Yes.
Yes, easy.
How about you?
We said it helps to give you focus, helps you progress, time management,
Management.
gives you opportunities for collaboration, gives you visibility when you seem to be achieving things,
Mm-hmm.
helps with your own career direction,
Yep.
gives you a sense of achievement when they're fulfilled, and we didn't get to number 8.
Oh, so you actually got 7 reasons. Okay, how about this team?
Motivation, keep track, direction, focus, comparison, engagement, quality, alignment, understanding, determination, to record positive intention, keep energy.
Wow.
Oh, wow. It's really
How many
awesome.
do you have?
14.
Okay.
So actually one thing that I didn't explain to you before the workout was that the instruction cards that we handed to the 3 teams is slightly different. So this team had just 1 reason
Yeah.
to come up with. This team had 8
Yes.
and this team had 20 reasons.
Ooh.
Okay. So can I ask, how did you feel about the instruction? How did you feel about this?
It's clear, it's okay.
It's okay.
But you're asking about how did we feel about the objective that you gave us?
Yes, the task.
It was possible, it was achievable. If we had 1 more minute, we would have
Yeah.
finished 20.
How many did you get
We
today?
are almost
13.
there, 13.
13. So 7 more to go. Okay. How about this team? How did you feel about?
Too easy.
Yeah, very
Easy?
good. Yeah, very easy.
I saw you.
Like 10 seconds done.
Yeah, we sat down and then we're sitting down looking at the others like, what are they doing?
Yeah, 3 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 people and 1 reason.
So,
How did you feel? Too easy?
Yeah.
What?
Then what's the one?
Yes. Yeah, I don't feel like I need to put like the effort on it. It's one quite easy. Yeah.
Okay, too easy. Maybe a bit bored, wondering what the others are really busy about.
Yeah.
How did this team feel about your objective?
We wanted to be very specific, I guess. That's why we tried to think a little bit, and that's why we didn't reach the 8th one. But yeah, we kind of covered that. Yeah. I'm just wondering how did they get 14 and not 15?
Do you feel that maybe with a slight bit more time you could have maybe
Yes,
achieved?
could, definitely. Yeah.
So maybe it didn't go fully as planned, but one learning from this exercise that we can take away with us is that setting the right objectives is really important. Okay? So the team that had 20 objectives, I think you did a great job. You did 14 reasons, but you were still quite a bit far from the task, right? And a lot of the times when we strain an employee too much, they might feel overwhelmed, or maybe this is impossible, we can't complete this. And the team here, which had just one question, we felt that, okay, boring, too easy, what's the point? You know, looking at other people being bored. And the team here felt that maybe with a little bit of a stretch, we could actually achieve something. And you felt maybe busy and engaged in the task that you were doing.
Yeah, very much.
So how
but
would we?
I'll just
Yes, go
say
ahead.
that this one proves that higher the objective, the better are the chances of higher achievement. Because we got
Yes.
13, they were just given 1, so they ended up having 1. We reached 13. If we were given probably 6 or 7, we would have ended up at 5 or 6. So it means that we should just give higher objectives.
It has the quality.
Yeah.
So there's also a
So-
question. Then I have a question here. Then there's also a thought that we need to then think about: is it good to have just one objective, or is it good to have many, or is it good to be having a reasonable number of that? So that's the thought process I'm having now.
Yeah, exactly what I wanted to say actually.
Ah, okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So actually having the right amount, the right level of objective.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit stretched, but you think you can achieve it. You felt very engaged and busy. Okay. Let's think about if these were our direct reports. Would we want our direct reports to feel that, okay, they're working really hard, but maybe still really big gap to go to really achieve that? Or would we want our direct reports to be thinking, okay, this is really boring, you know, what's everybody else doing, and just wandering around that one place?
Maybe like reasonable numbers, depending their capabilities. Yeah, because I mean, maybe if for someone's quite junior, one is like, I need to read research, I need to ask. But for us, probably since we're used to it, so okay, 10 seconds left.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Trisha. So depending on the person, maybe the right level is different.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you. So let me share one story here about what we did. This is actually regarding a true story. Does anybody know about Ford Pinto? Ford Pinto. So in the 1980s, the few managers in Ford set a target to develop Ford Pinto. It's a model of a car, under
Okay.
2,000 US dollars per car. This goal was so stretching that the employees who were working on it actually overlooked to do some safety testing, and the car went into the market without going through the necessary safety checks. It happens that the car's fuel tank was quite vulnerable to rear-end collision. So what happened was, when there was collisions at the back end of the car, the fuel tanks actually exploded quite easily. Okay, this resulted in 53 fatalities. So we have to remember that setting the right objectives is really important, but straining the employees so that they are going to compromise some really
Very
important factors is worse than actually not having objectives or having lower objectives. So now we looked at the benefits and the importance of having the right level of objectives. Let's look at what's stopping us from setting the great objectives. So here are some of the common things that happens. For example, we might be too busy. There's not enough time. The process is confusing. Maybe there are tricky people that stand in the way. Things like this. Let's focus a little bit on the second last point, which is confusion over responsibility. Who do you think is responsible for objective setting?
Manager.
Manager? Jeez, shucks, there's manager. Sorry. Any other answers?
So also the individual, so I feel maybe it's more the manager, a bit on the individual as well.
Okay, so you think it's kind of in between.
Yeah.
So for me to work on my performance, I think it is important as an individual, but it's also a direction coming from there. So I would say shared.
Share. So I think technically everyone's right. This is a responsibility of the leader and also the individual, and sometimes it's already also shared. So as we looked at the as we looked at in the contents, we have different stages of objective setting. And at different stages, the responsibility actually shifts in between. So now let me give you your handouts. Please pass it on.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I want to find out in like Maersk as an organization because I'm relatively new. I've heard at least so far that the objectives have come, this is what people have said, that it's come from the center, it's cascaded. So do I have the flexibility to make changes to the objectives of my leader or of my team and myself, or do we have to completely go by what's coming to us from the center?
Radha, thank you for the question. Maybe we have some senior leaders who can maybe comment or advise Radha on this.
From my experience being with the group, there is the opportunity for the leader possibly give you the broad ideas of some key performance measure, and then there is an opportunity for individual to also share how their contribution will be accountable for that kind of KPI. So I think in the context of MERS, it's sort of mutual that we need to get the alignment from both yourself and also your manager.
So there is some amount of
Flexibility.
Okay, that helps.
Anyone want to add to that, or are we okay? Thank you. I think it's a really valid question. So we looked at the benefits of objective setting, also the importance of having the right objectives. We also looked at where the responsibility lies. Now we'll go into the actual setting of the objective, this process of objective setting. So as explained earlier, there are 3 stages of objective setting. This is also in your handouts as well. The first part is, sorry, I should just explain a little bit about this. But when you open the first seal of your handout, you can see that at the bottom there is a similar scale in your handout. So throughout this workout, we'll go through the process and the stages of objective setting, and we'll discuss about where the responsibility lies. So for your reference, for your easy reference, maybe you can take notes of where the responsibility is. So to get back to the 3 stages, so we have team objective setting, then we have the second stage, which is refining personal objectives, and the third part is the follow-up. We'll look into each stages a little bit more in detail. So this is the team objective setting. This is also in your handout. You can maybe open the second seal. Sorry. Okay. So this pyramid, this model basically shows that organizational objectives are supported by team, leader, and personal objectives. So actually having, without the personal objectives, we cannot achieve the big picture, the vision of the company. The first question that we need to ask when we are setting team objectives is, what's the organizational objective? Do we all know what the vision of Maersk is?
Yeah.
New manager, you also know, right?
Yeah, I just attended the induction, so so I remember that it is to be the integrated container logistics leading the brand.
Yeah. Global integrated container
Yeah.
logistics. So we can easily answer the first question. The second question we need to ask then is, what can my team, what can our team do to contribute towards that bigger purpose or the bigger vision of the company? when we know the answer to the second question, it actually clarifies what our objectives should be as a leader of that team. Okay, and also our recommendation is when we are setting team objectives, invite your team members. Okay? Set up a meeting with our team, have an open discussion about what can we as a team contribute towards the bigger picture of the company. Have them comment, input their opinions. Why do we do this? Yes, Trisha.
If we invite all the team, won't the process will be long? Because to gather everyone's input and for some big things, it can take a long time for us to come together. And at the end, we may not be able to accommodate all their input.
Jay?
I think it's not taking a lot of inputs from each one of them. As in, it should not be detailed input, but at least a meeting where everybody gets an opportunity to voice their opinion about what are we going to achieve through the year. I think the leader would kind of take the lead in terms of sharing that what his or her plan is, and the team members will contribute, will give their inputs that we think that this should be there. I mean, I've seen that kind of meetings where while it is not too much time consuming, but all the inputs are taken.
I think it'll save you time throughout the year as well, because then people aren't constantly asking questions about what are we doing, and at least the direction set.
And the teams will also have ownership, team
Yeah.
members.
So basically, it's more like communicating and giving them the chance to ask questions, or if they have different views on that objective.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think Jay mentioned, getting them involved in the actual setting. Maybe not all of their opinion would be built into the objective itself, but we can maybe get the buy-in, right?
Yeah.
By including the team members. And as Hannah mentioned, we can keep track. So maybe at the start it might take some time, but in the long run, maybe they're more committed and they know what they're doing, the direction of the company. And also, by explaining this model, I think we can say that the personal objectives, the individual's objectives, are actually really related to the bigger picture. As HRBP for customer service, I don't know if many of you might have seen the same in our own team, but a lot of the employees at a lower hierarchy in the company actually feel that what I'm doing is not really aligned with the company's vision, bigger vision. So I think involving the team at this stage would make them feel that their efforts are actually really linked to the bigger picture of the company. Yeah, so now we talked about the team objectives. We'll go into the second stage, which is refining to the personal objectives, which I think Trisha, you wanted to maybe look into this further about different people, different level of the right objective. Okay. So before we start going into the refining of the personal objectives, we're going to have a small team challenge. Okay. So in a moment, we'll divide into teams again. We'll do a different lineup, and the purpose of this challenge is to build a tower in either pairs or in your threes. Okay. The only material we will have is some newspaper and a roll of tape. Okay. We have 3 minutes